Tech, home of the daily technology reviews, and today we're going to be recapping exactly what happened with the Log4J hack and all of the vulnerabilities that were exposed, and we'll also be talking about the magnitude of exactly what happened. So let's go ahead and dive into everything regarding the Log4J flaw. Today's episode is brought to you by CleanOuter, but more on them later. So a lot of hackers, but this is part of the scary part, including Chinese state-backed groups, have launched more than 840,000 attacks on companies globally just since Friday. That's an insane amount of hacks. According to researchers, through a previously unnoticed vulnerability in a widely used piece of open source software called Log4J, cybersecurity group Checkpoint said that the attackers relating to the vulnerability had accelerated in the 72 hours since Friday, and that some points of its researchers were seeing more than 100 attacks a minute. That is an absolutely insane amount of attacks or hacks in 1 minute. I actually have a roommate who works for Amazon, and he told me that they had to drop everything that they were doing, and they had an all hands on deck to be able to release a patch for the Log4J vulnerability. So it was that big of a deal that everybody had to stop what they were doing at Amazon to be able to release a patch. And said perpetrators include Chinese government attackers, which is kind of scary. That's pretty scary. And my personal thing is, when it comes down to it, I don't think we're going to have a war of necessarily of guys on the ground like World War II. I think it'll be, if there ever is any type of World War III, hopefully there never is, but if there is, I think it'll be a lot of hacks. That'll just be one of the major aspects, is now cyber hacks will be able to divulge secrets of countries and to be able to find vulnerabilities. I think this is going to be a huge part of exactly what is going into the country. That'll be a large part of some attacks. Hopefully we never have those. But the flaw was it allowed attackers to easily gain remote access over computers, running apps in Java, which is a popular programming language. And here's what the director of the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency said. She said, this was one of the most serious I've ever seen in my entire career, if not the most serious. Hundreds of millions of devices are likely affected, she said. So what's uncertain is if all of the companies have released patches. I wish we could know exactly what percentage of this vulnerability or flaw was contained. Now let's talk about what these hackers were doing with the computers. Checkpoint said that in many cases the hackers were taking control of computers to use them to mine cryptocurrency, which is something super interesting. I didn't exactly think of that, but it's a pretty smart use. It's a pretty intelligent use of a hack, if I were to say so myself. Or become part of botnets, which are vast networks of computers that can be used to overwhelm websites with traffic, send spam, or other illegal purposes. So obviously this is something terrible. It affected hundreds of millions of devices. And the vulnerability is the latest to hit corporate networks after an emergence of flaws in the past year of commonly used software from Microsoft and IT company SolarWinds. Both these weaknesses were initially exploited by state-backed espionage groups from China and Russia, respectively. So this is just something that you definitely want to look out for when it comes to large companies and exactly how to protect yourself against it. And speaking of good ways to protect yourself, let's go ahead and head over to our sponsor for today's episode, which is CleanOuter. CleanOuter is a device that you can put in your home that is backed with the state-of-the-art technology to protect your phone not only from cyber attacks, but also from harmful things on the internet that you do not want in your home. This comes with the ultimate parental controls, which allows you to control every single device in the house via a phone. So you can have a parental control app that will control all the devices in your home, as well as you can set time restrictions and you can prohibit certain websites from being accessed. So this is today's sponsor. If you have any other questions for today's sponsor, go ahead and check the link in the description. But like always, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next tech review.